When you hear the name Mike De Leon, you probably think of intense, socially charged dramas, films that cut deep into the realities of Philippine society. But in 1980, De Leon did something unexpected. He made a comedy. And not just any comedy, but a full blown, off the walls musical that throws gangsters, nuns, Japanese businessmen, and random song and dance numbers into a single, chaotic ride. That film is Kakabakabakaba, a movie that feels like a fever dream, where the absurd collide in the most entertaining way possible. On the surface, it's a wacky romp about misplaced contraband, mistaken identities, and impossible situations. But look closer, and you'll see how its chaos becomes a clever disguise for a sharp political commentary. What makes this film so brilliant is how it never stops being funny while still smuggling in big ideas about power, fate, and foreign influence. It's De Leon at his wildest and most playful and maybe even his boldest. In this video, we delve into the delightful madness of Kakabakabakaba, examining how comedy, chaos, and music converge to create one of the most unforgettable satires in Philippine cinema. Let's talk about Kakabakabakaba. Let me tell you the story. Kakabakabakaba wastes no time letting you know what kind of movie it is. The cold open alone is a mini movie. We see Onota, a bumbling but persistent member of the Japanese Yakuza, fail multiple times to smuggle contraband into the Philippines. Whether it's diamonds hidden in a doll, money tucked inside a guitar, or opium wrapped in a kimono sash, he just can't catch a break. But by the present day of the film, Onota gets one last chance, this time with a cassette tape containing contraband. Desperate, he slips it into the pocket of an unsuspecting passenger, Johnny, played by Christopher De Leon, who's just trying to return home to Manila. What follows is a comedy of escalating chaos. Johnny, his love interest Melanie, and their friends Nonong and Nancy suddenly find themselves being pursued left and right by different groups who all want the mysterious cassette tape. There's Madame Lily, the flamboyant leader of a Chinese crime syndicate. There's Father Blanco, a priest whose motives are more suspicious than holy. And of course, there's Onota himself, scrambling to fix his blunder before his boss finds out. The cassette, of course, doesn't just contain any random smuggled goods. It contains opium. And when the group uncovers the truth, the film takes an even stranger turn. Disguised as priests and nuns, Johnny and his friends travel to Baguio and stumble upon a shocking plan. A massive Japanese syndicate working with the Pinoy master is plotting to lace communion wafers with opium to control the Filipino population. And how do they stop it? Not with guns, not with violence, but with a full-blown musical extravaganza, complete with choreography, song numbers, and a finale that feels like both a satire and spectacle. In true comedic fashion, everything wraps up with a joint wedding ceremony for both couples. Because why not, right? It's loud, it's absurd, it's ridiculous, but that's exactly the point. Beneath the chaos, Kakabakabakaba is winking at us, saying, sometimes the only way to expose the serious absurdities of society is through comedy. That's just as outrageous as it is. One of the most striking things about Kakabakabakaba is how it uses comedy and musical spectacle to make a razor-sharp critique of foreign influence in the Philippines. At first glance, the story might feel like just another wacky crime caper, but look closer and you'll see that it's poking fun at some very real social and political anxieties. The villains aren't random criminals, they're foreign powers with deep historical baggage. The Japanese Yakuza, the Chinese syndicate, even the Catholic Church. All of them represent external forces that have tried in one way or another to shape, exploit, or control Filipino society. And the scheme they uncover, distributing opium through communion wafers, isn't just absurd comedy. It's a biting metaphor for how colonization, religion, and global politics have often been weaponized to pacify the Filipino people. Mike De Leon doesn't shy away from bold imagery. The idea of lacing a sacred religious ritual with drugs is shocking. But that's actually the point. It forces us to confront how vulnerable institutions can become tools of control. What makes this critique even more effective is that it's wrapped in comedy. The ridiculousness of the plot mirrors the ridiculousness of the real-world power dynamics. At the heart of the film, Kakabakabakaba asks, who holds power in the Philippines and how much of that power comes from outside its borders? By laughing at these absurd scenarios, we're also encouraged to question the seriousness of the forces that continue to shape the nation's identity. One of the most unforgettable things about Kakabakabakaba is how it embraces music not just as an entertainment, but as a weapon. The film takes the structure of a musical, with songs, choreography, and flamboyant production numbers, and flips it into a form of protest. Nowhere is this more powerful than in the climax, where the Filipino protagonist foiled the foreign syndicate's plan through a massive musical extravaganza. What could have been just another showdown is transformed into a celebration of Filipino resilience and creativity. The bright costumes, energetic choreography, and joyful songs remind us that culture itself can be an act of defiance. By turning the final battle into a musical, Mike De Leon highlights something important. Oppression often thrives on fear and silence, but music breaks both of them. The act of singing, dancing, and performing together becomes a rejection of control, a statement that joy, art, and unity can dismantle even the most sinister schemes. And it works because the film never lets us forget that performance is political. From the street parades to the wedding finale, the spectacle isn't just for laughs. It's a vision of a people reclaiming their identity from forces that tried to manipulate them. In a way, the musical number shows that creativity and humor are uniquely Filipino forms of survival. Now, what makes Kakabakaba so... Let me say that again. That was wrong. What makes Kakabakaba so brilliant is how it manages to juggle parody and sincerity. On one hand, it pokes fun at foreign powers, organized crime, and even the sacred institutions of religion through satire and absurd comedy. On the other hand, it sincerely champions the Filipino spirit, resourceful, joyful, and unafraid to resist through laughter and song. This balance is what keeps the film timeless. It reminds us that humor and spectacle don't weaken a story's political edge. They sharpen it. By making us laugh, sing, and dance along, the film ensures its critique of power hits even harder. Kakabakabakaba is more than just a comedy. It's Mike De Leon's boldest experiment, a film that dares to mix musicals, satire, crime, and politics into one dazzling spectacle. It stands out as his funniest film, but also one of his fiercest, because beneath the laughter is a sharp critique of foreign influence, religious institutions, and how power tries to control everyday Filipinos. Even decades after its release, the film still feels fresh, wild, and unapologetically Filipino. It proves that cinema can be playful and political at the same time, that making people laugh doesn't mean you can't make them think. So, if you're looking for a film that captures the joy, chaos, and resistance of the Filipino spirit, Kakabakabakaba is the perfect reminder that sometimes the fiercest protest comes with music and laughter. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and want to help me create more deep dives into Philippine cinema, you can now join my YouTube membership for as low as 39 pesos a month. Yes, Philippine peso. It's a small way to support the channel, but it makes a huge difference for me to keep telling these stories. For those watching outside the Philippines, you can check the equivalent in your currency right on the join page. Every member helps keep the lights on for more films, more stories, and more conversations. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you on the next video.